Process, a podcast where we talk about life and business topics. We ask a lot of questions. We tell a whole lot of stories. And today we're going to be doing some laughing, I think, so that all the viewers can achieve their desired outcomes. Follow Your Process is sponsored by David Benegas Art. David Benegas is an incredible artist that takes photography and converts it into David Benegas art, which are just stunning images that people hang in their homes. He also does various animals, horses. He did the humpback whales that is part of my logo. And if you go and purchase something at www.benegasartmerch.com and you use the FYP 5OFF code, you'll get 5% off your purchase. You can also commission David by sending him one of your pieces of photography and asking him to paint that as David Benegas art. He also does live artwork, so he'll come to your house and paint. He'll come to your event and paint. And I highly encourage you to check out our very generous sponsor, David Benegas Art. On today's episode 8, I am very pleased and delighted to have Larry Cole. Larry is the president of CuGrip, and we're going to learn all about CuGrip. This is another situation that's related to COVID, and we've all been impacted by COVID. And I don't really remember how I met Larry, but when I met Larry, his energy was infectious. And then when I learned more about CuGrip, it is just part of something that I think many, many people need to be aware of. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you. I'm doing very well, David. I appreciate being on today.
Yeah, well, tell us where you're located. It looks like a beautiful backdrop there, or some sort of lake or something.
Absolutely. So I am located at a place called Osoyoos, BC. So that's spelled Osoyoos. And it's Osoyoos, BC. It's right on the British Columbia, Canada border with Washington State in the United States. And this lake that you can see right behind me is half in the United States, half in Canada. And I'm literally only, I would say, from where I'm sitting right now, 500 feet from the border.
My goodness. So is there a fence?
Well, there is sort of. The border is right there if you want to drive through, which you can't do right now because of the border being closed. And then there's white pegs across the lake that just indicate that you're either in Canada or in the United States. And as long as you don't touch ground anywhere while you're on your boat, then you're welcome to go back and forth. And there's no real fence at all. Wrong border.
I got you. Well,
yeah.
I live in Linden, Washington, which is over a little bit, is in Washington State.
Yes. Yeah.
Border, and we were 5 miles off. And I know the economies have been absolutely impacted tremendously because the Canadians can't come across and we can't go up to Canada.
Well, yeah, because we've got Oroville, which is just like, 1,000 feet from the border, and it relies on this entire area for a lot of its economy. And of course, nobody's getting across right now at all, so they're really suffering over there.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, listen, it's great to have you. This is probably one of the best backdrops any guest has ever had. You've raised the bar a bit on that, but it's really good to have you. And So tell us, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a couple of videos on CuGrip. And this will help the audience understand what it is. So I'm going to share my screen and then go over to my desktop. Here we go. Uh-oh. Now there's a technical difficulty. Hang on. I don't know.
We're doing all right. Uh-oh. That's the next one.
Oh, my goodness. Well, this is why oh.
There we go. There we go. There.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me get to number 2 now.
Well, hi there, everyone. It is Brian Barron, Director of Skincare Research, Paula's Choice Skincare, here with you on Wednesday, October 14th. We're halfway.
We're too young to talk about forever. Talk about the weather to know any better. I just want to laugh until I can't breathe. Midnight moonlight dancing, never getting enough sleep. Oh, the whole night.
And then we have the last one about how to apply it. This is a little bit longer, but it's a good one.
Welcome to the installation guide for circular handles. In this video, we will be using a V-shaped handle. However, the same process is applicable to any circular handle. Installing is easy if you follow our simple video instructions. In the package, you will find your CuGrip wraps, a custom applicator tool, adhesive labels to place on your door above the wrap, and an info slip. Be sure to read it carefully. First, ensure that the area that you are applying the CuGrip wrap is clean of dirt and other debris. Next, peel the CuGrip wrap off the adhesive sheet. Be careful not to touch the adhesive layer on the back of the wrap. Next, remove the transparent protective film from the front of the CuGrip wrap. Peel slowly to avoid creasing and wrinkling. However, if some wrinkling occurs, don't worry. This will be smoothed out during installation. Once your wrap is ready to place, figure out where to place it along your handle. For best results, place the wrap where the handle is most commonly touched. Align the center of the wrap with the center of the handle, making sure it isn't skewed. Starting in the middle, press down on the wrap to secure it in place. Next, grab your applicator tool and make your way to the top of the handle, pressing down on the wrap to avoid air pockets and wrinkles. Do the same for the other side of the wrap. Once the wrap is installed, there should be a small overlap. Make sure to press down on the seam to remove rough edges. Run the applicator tool along the rest of the edges to create a smooth feel all around. Once you do this, you're done. If there are wrinkles that you can't remove even after using the applicator tool, that's okay. It will not affect the performance of CuGrip wraps. Lastly, apply the adhesive label above the wrap to notify people of its self-sanitizing properties.
All right, we're back. So that's a really cool product. I would have never thought of it. So it's a copper wrap
Yes.
that kills viruses?
Yes. So the rest of the story on CuGrip is, and I think I'll take one step back and I'll tell you how it came to be, so that
Sure.
these videos will make sense. So my partner is a young man by the name of Victor Nikolov, and he is a mechanical engineer who graduated out of the University of Victoria. A couple of years ago, he came to me looking for entrepreneurial help and mentoring and the product he had developed at that time was a product called Sapura, which is an under sink separator of solids and water. A really cool product. You can retrofit homes. But he came to me with that particular product, and we worked together for about a year on it, and it's still on the internet right now being sold. He came back to me about it'd be about 4.5 months ago now, almost 5 months now. And he said to me, I have something. I think I have something big, but I think I need some help with it. And he told me about CuGrip, but I asked him to go away for the weekend. And I wanted to spend a couple of days doing my own research about copper, and also what I felt the market might or could be. And I did. I spent my own time. And by that following Monday, because he called me on a Friday, Saturday, I can't remember the exact day now. And on the following Monday, I actually resigned everything I was doing in Europe and came on board with CuGrip 100%.
I think most people refer to this as a pivot.
It was. It was one of those situations where you had to believe the science, and there's lots of it. And then you had to think about the position the world was in at that particular time. 5 months ago, the world was just starting to learn about the power of COVID and how much how quickly it spread and what have you. And so, we know a lot more now, but 5 months ago we didn't. So, the product, so when I came on board, the product was still in its infancy in terms of there was beta testing going on and there was some marketing testing going on, but we hadn't really gone after developing the global marketplace for the product. And that's what I came on board for, was I brought in some other people that got us a supply chain, got us manufacturing, and we started to look at the value propositions of copper. And I got really excited about it right off the bat. And you were saying at the beginning of the show, you can't remember how we met. Well, there's a significant part of that actually got CuGrip going very fast. Was I reached out to you because of your background on LinkedIn. And I tried to connect with you. Do you remember that now? Yeah. And then you and I had that initial conversation, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you and I just clicked. We clicked. We started talking, and nobody was trying to sell anybody anything. It was more of, this is what we're doing. You said what you were doing, and we found some synergy in that conversation.
Yep. And I remember, Steve Christian, who is my planner, and he's also involved with through another gentleman he introduced me to, Joel Nelson at IMS.
Right.
And I said, you know what? This seems to fit in the catalog for IMS. Let me make the transfer introduction.
Right. Right.
And one of my desires, given my focus on a daily basis for Sanitrax, is to help my customers, especially customers like Live Nation, come back to work. So I really think that this conversation, and certainly my curiosity and interest, I would tell you that the widget is pretty cool, right? So the CuGrip widget makes a ton of sense to me. Not that I'm really involved in it. I'm not selling CuGrip or whatever the deal is.
Yeah.
But it is something where I care deeply about helping other people discover something that may be one small piece of the puzzle of tackling this pandemic.
Yes.
And Live Nation is going to open up their House of Blues again. They're going to open up their comedy club. And so it just made sense to me to make that introduction, let you guys run with it. And then, I've checked in with you recently and I heard some great updates. So I said, hey, I need episode 8. You want to be on it? And you're like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am still batting 1,000. I think I'm over 50 right now, but we moved you right up the list. Just because I like talking to you, and you're our first Canadian guest as well. So
I forgot to mention that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Great White North is in the house.
Yeah.
But it's made in Ohio, correct?
That's right. So so yes, I'm Canadian. Victor, my partner's Canadian, and we have a Canadian company, but we knew that the first call is I have this attitude around business that you could have a really good idea for your widget, but if you can't build it and sell it, then all you've got is a really good idea. And so my first phone call was to a gentleman down in the United States in Columbus, Ohio. I've known him for a few years. His name is Dustin McMillan. and I call him a sourcing guru, a supply chain guru. He's just really, really smart at it. And I I still remember the call because it was the first call I made. And I said, Dustin, do you think you could build a supply chain in like 30 days? And he kind of went, what? And for your audience, I have to explain how CuGrips are made for you to understand why he kind of went what, because CuGrip is like the size of we used to call it construction paper when I was in high school or in school. It's like that thickness of construction paper, and then on one side of that paper is adhesive. And that adhesive is kind of weatherproof. It will stick to almost anything, but it won't leave a residue when you peel it off. On the other side of the copper is an electrostatic saran wrap, if you want to call it, but it's a protective cover that goes on the which you saw in the installation video, that goes on there to stop copper from oxidizing or from getting marked during shipping or what have you. So there's the three pieces.
Wow.
And yeah, definitely Columbus, Ohio. So we're American made, and we wanted to be American made. We could see the advantage of being American made, and then using Columbus, Ohio as a distribution point to the world, because I can get shipping containers, pallets flowing out of there, trucks go out of there, rail go out of there. It's a part of the old Rust Belt. So there's just lots of transportation hubs in that area.
And then how far in does your copper come? I mean, I don't know much about sourcing copper, but does it come in big rolls or? So
the copper comes, think of copper, you can't see my hands, but just think of the copper comes in 10,000, 20, 30,000 foot rolls, but it's 26 inches wide at the thickness that we're asking for with the malleability that we're asking for, because CuGrips are 99.9% pure copper.
Wow.
Now, what that means to the audience is that the efficacy, or when you're testing COVID against viruses like COVID, the cold, the flu, the higher your percentage of copper, the more efficacy or the better it works, the properties of copper. So we just went right to pure copper. And that's what we've been using ever since. So it's like 26 inches wide, super long rolls, very heavy. And then our product comes through that, and it's and the parts are stamped on cutters. And yeah, it's a neat process. And I think we're capable of, I think we can do like 5 million parts a month right now, but we have the capability because of Ohio, and they have more than one manufacturer of what we do under licensing. I think we could get up to about 100 million parts a month when and if we need that. But yeah, that's where we want to go.
This remotely, like you cut the deal, found the guy in Ohio. Did you guys come? Because I don't think you could come down to America, right?
No, we don't want to move. Like, we started CuGrip. I've been a remote worker for most of my adult life, so I'm used to this kind of business.
Sure.
But Victor and I started on purpose a remote company, and we do everything remotely. Now, you've got to have good people to do that, like Dustin McMillan in Columbus. I mean, I trust him like a brother. If you're going to do a remote business from scratch, you really have to have solid people on the team, and we think we do. And plus, we've also got really good contracts that we're able to do with people. So, yeah, we've done it all remotely, which is not easy, but.
The one thing I was impressed with is your marketing and your video, your use of video.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of using video. I think in a very short period of time, it tells the whole story. It causes people to be curious if they ask more questions. To talk a little bit about that, like, was that what you did for Victor? Is you put that sort of strategy package together? And then
no, that's the cool part about a team is that we knew what we were going to try to build as a brand. And we know intrinsically that people like pictures and they like video. And that's what, like if you think about it right now, every time you want to do something, what's the first thing you do? You go in and search YouTube, and somebody's done a video. So we knew that if we did videos, you could pretty much get away with not having to use any language at all, and people could pick up on the product, being able to install the product itself. So we decided as a group how we wanted to move forward with our branding, and then what formats we wanted to use. And we've got a lot more videos coming out, because now we want to get into our longer term installations and showing the videos of those, and showing the time lapse from when they were first installed to what do they look like now.
Well, listen, we need you on TikTok too. Hopefully they got some TikTok working. I'm a big TikTok fan.
Yeah, are you? Because I just don't get TikTok. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I mean, all of my daughters, yeah, they get it. That's
actually a stereotypical misnomer. And if you just were to Google business on TikTok,
right,
it is
enormous.
It's enormous, and the arbitrage of how it's free.
Yeah, I know. Well, sort of.
And then if something goes viral and then somebody shares your stuff,
that's right.
And you're limited to 1 minute of videos and stuff like that. And then the other interesting thing is they now have TikTok Live. So I eventually want to do my podcast on TikTok Live.
I get it. Listen, I'm the first guy when I'm on LinkedIn or when I'm on Facebook, I'm looking and there's TikTok. So, I mean, I'm the watcher right now, and I'm sure that our crew is going to do something. I mean, I do like that we made those professional videos,
very much so,
that has the music in the background and is kind of sharing a story, because the world we live in right now is different. I mean, it's a different world than it was 6 months ago.
So talk to me about like who do you have traction? Like who likes it, and any new idea. The thing I love about COVID as a gift is that it has been a reset button if you're willing to pivot and open up. So obviously you are. I am.
Right.
And then what's amazing is. Yeah. No one would have ever imagined doing as much as we're doing, as fast as we're doing it.
That's right.
And other situations are taking inordinately longer periods of time.
Yeah, that's right.
No one's making a decision right now on festivals or events or anything like that. So that's ground to a halt, right? But on the other side of things, things like you're talking like 4 months ago, this didn't exist. The guy calls you up, you acted quickly.
That's right.
Speed to market. So talk to me a little bit about how it's been received so far in the marketplace.
So, that is such a key question to ask, in my opinion, because we've had a lot of compliments come at us in that we came out of the gate with it's called an ESG, environmental sustainability and governance. We came out with a statement about what we thought CuGrip could be, because for your audience, again, CuGrip are wraps that go around handles, and they go around poles for a bus. They go around all different kinds of
high touch areas.
High touch areas. So the idea around it is that copper kills viruses, and it doesn't take long. It takes anywhere from a few minutes to around 4 hours. So in that period of time, the copper goes right back to brand new. So we were the first ones to take the hundreds and hundreds of year old idea of copper and turn it into a product that could be used widely. Well, we know that comes with a big responsibility. And part of that responsibility is when you're first, get the information out there correctly, and try to get the information out there so it can be consumed correctly. And I think that is a responsibility when you're first. There'll be lots of competition. We know that. But, when we started to come out, we looked at who would want to know us, who would want to use CuGrip because they have a problem with frequently touched areas. So we looked at schools. We're working with one of the largest transit companies in Western Canada. We are working with hospitals, airports, any type of public building, but food safe, manufacturing. So if there's a risk of somebody going positive in a restaurant, in a mall, in a retail store, in a manufacturing plant, if somebody goes positive, everything gets shut down. So the higher that risk point were the people that we wanted to talk to. And I think that's how we got early traction, is we went out and talked to people that were in that high risk category. And we were successful at beginning the conversation by saying, we have a very dumb product. Like, this is not a high-tech product. This is something you go put on. The science is already there. Here's your science. Go give it a try. And I like that style. So that's where, and we did that all around the world. So our business model was, hey, let's take care of the brand. Victor and I and the rest of the CuGrip crew will look after the brand. We'll have Columbus, Ohio look after the distribution of the product, and we will distribute to other distributors so that we can get the product around the world and start doing it online. Well, that was met very well as well, because the problem, when we started CuGrip, the first wave was going up. And then there was this slight little dip, and everybody went, oh, we're feeling better. And really what happened was they found out very quickly how much a single person could spread the disease very quickly, and to a lot of people. So all of a sudden now, we're back into it in a big way. And I'm not to change the subject or anything, but I read some reports this morning on Russia, which I actually reached out to a friend of mine who does business in Russia. It's horrible there right now, and so is it in South America and a bunch of hot spots, United States included. Now look at Canada.
Yeah, I'm wondering if a portable restroom truck or a portable restroom operator could benefit from this, because these guys are first responders. That they can't stop cleaning the toilets. Of course, they wear gloves, but eventually you take your gloves off and get back in the truck. That's interesting. I just thought of that. Like, maybe I'll have to maybe I'll share it with a couple of my buddies that I'm trying to sell Santrax to and see what they think.
There's a funny thing that has happened to us recently. We came out with the large commercial applications. Like if you think of an articulating bus that's 60 feet long, it's got several poles, it's got several handles up high, and it's got the handles like this when you're sitting in the row. So it's very easy to identify that particular market. Public transit is very easy. But if you've got an interesting product and you're listening to the market, it's going to tell you. And damned if last week we got a situation where a guy came to us and he said, we had to take all of the rakes from golf courses off the golf courses. And I'm looking and I'm listening. I'm going, what? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, how many rakes are on a golf course? And I'm a golfer. And, I'm thinking like, well, maybe 50. And he goes, about 300. And I went, wow. So then we went and got a rake, and we put the CuGrips on both ends of it, just as if you're going to rake a sand trap. And then we thought of the poles. Right. And then we went, well, what about the men's and the ladies' change rooms, the washrooms? And then it just kind of went, well, golf courses. Wow. So that's just the market whispering to us.
And then what's amazing about it is it's like portable restroom operators. Every portable restroom operator across America is out of sinks and hand sanitizers. So the golf course thing, it applies to every golf course. There's a golf course in the globe that can say, well, we don't need that because we're good. Right. So that's interesting.
So, when I think about concerts, for example, then you put out all the portables. And again, this came to us, you've got people, everybody's being as safe as they can, and they're trying to use their feet, and they're trying to use their elbow. But the fact of the matter is, when you just glance around, and you're at something, even if you're social distancing, you can recognize right away the frequently touched or the high touch zones just by watching people.
Yeah, our door handle needs one wrapped on because everyone has to touch the door handle.
Yeah.
You know, some people do try to use the foot or whatever, but everyone has to grab that. And, yeah.
So, then we start learning some things like with schools, for example. And I use this because I was just talking to a guy this morning, and I'm in a meeting on Monday with a very big U.S. District for schools. And they didn't want to talk about COVID. They wanted to talk about the flu. Because last year, before COVID, they lost a significant part of their midterm exams because a lot of people got the flu and they had to try to reschedule things. And it was just a bad year for the flu. And of course, copper is about viruses. It doesn't distinguish between COVID and the common cold or the flu or norovirus or whatever, or SARS. It doesn't distinguish between that. It's about all viruses. So I don't even assume anymore why somebody's talking to us. It could be COVID related, and I get that. I should explain, David, that, like our basic philosophy about how CuGrip fits into the world. Would you mind if I just told you that?
Oh, go ahead.
Because I think it's important that people realize that we don't think we're saving the world with CuGrip.
I just want to say, by the way, these podcasts help me just as much as they help you.
Okay.
So I'm hearing these stories. Yeah.
Okay. So what we've learned along our 5 months of intensive learning about COVID is about a strategy, and it's about a strategy of doing a whole bunch of things. And we've learned that the hard way. So when you think about in the marketplace, like, we have our mask, we have our social distancing, we have our hand sanitizers. We are using, in some of the big commercial applications, they're using fogging, they're using UV lights.
Air purification is next.
Yeah, air purification. And where CuGrip came into this entire scenario was, if you think of everything I just said to you as being a giant sandbox, and this giant sandbox has got a bunch of niche solutions in there that if you do it correctly, and I would be very remiss if I didn't say at the very top of all of that is public education. Because I think with that, you can do all the rest of the strategies. Without education, I think that it makes it harder. But where CuGrip fits into all of this is that there was two things that we learned that we never talked about at the very beginning of CuGrip. The first thing is there's some really good products out there. This is one of these statements where you kind of shake your head and then go, okay, I get it. You can't see clean. You can't see sanitized.
Yes.
You could have just sprayed something. You could have just cleaned it, but somebody's walking by in a hotel or in a motel or a convention center. They don't know that. So there's this constant alert of fear. So where CuGrip came into that statement of you can't see clean is it gave you a highly visible place to touch. And so it's being seen to be a place to touch.
Yeah, because you can actually see this. It stands.
That's right. Yeah, it sticks right out. And then on top of that, you're also helping your staff or the commercial company that you're using. They know where to clean now. So if you've changed somebody's behavior and you said, look, every time you see that copper, use it. Just use it. Whether you're telling a student that, whether you're telling somebody in a hospital, or whether you're telling somebody at an airport. Sorry, that's a deer going by. So
you're well protected. You're well protected.
Yes. So by changing somebody's behavior and using the copper, you now know where to effectively clean. And whether it be a cruise ship, any marine application, all of these applications require a change in behavior.
I think we're seeing it everywhere. And it's really interesting. I wear a mask all the time. I mean,
yeah, me too. Yeah, when I'm out, I've got a mask with me.
I have no understanding of people that politicize or commercialize or militarize the issue of wearing a mask. To me, you can't legislate common sense. It's just common sense. It's not. Yeah. It's not meant to trigger some emotional, virulent. I'm anti. But like many things, you never know what triggers somebody. But what's interesting about this is all the portable restroom operators, they've continued to work, and they have not decimated their businesses by everyone getting sick. And you can imagine what they're doing every day. If there was an opportunity, they've increased their sanitization, they've increased their disinfection, they've taken additional PPE precautions. So they've pivoted and changed, but they have not needed to shut down, right? So
that's right. That's right. And that's protocols. Whether we like it or not, the world has changed.
Yes.
How we do things has changed, and we can fight that, or we can learn. Like one of my examples is we're loosely affiliated with a lot of really good product companies that are in the COVID business, what I call the COVID economy. Because we're in the safety business. We like to be affiliated with other safety companies. And I met a company a little while ago that's called COVID Trained. And what appealed to me, and I met them on LinkedIn, what appealed to me to them was they had made these 3 and 5 minute safety videos using avatars. And you could take a whole series of them, and the one I picked was what about COVID and pets? And I watched it, and I went, gee, these things are so well done. And then I started thinking, everybody I talk to, I forget sometimes that I'm there to talk to them about CuGrip, because I say to them, what are you doing for educating? I said, because if you don't have your entire staff educated, then you haven't got everybody starting from the right point or from the point of view of your company.
Right.
So they're all on the same page, and then you can educate. So when you got people leaving, so I think of companies like McDonald's, and I think of like here, Tim Hortons in Canada, and any company that has a large staff. If they don't have continuous learning, then everybody gets to walk in with their own attitude.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's safe.
Yeah. Well, it's not anymore. I mean, I think because COVID applies to everyone. I think, what was the name of the company again? COVID Trained?
Yeah. COVID-Trained. A gentleman by the name of Amir. And
look that up, because that kind of training, I'm gonna go check out.
It belongs in schools. It belongs in corporations. It's so easy.
Right. So
I sit there and watch it on my. I sat and I did mine on my phone. So
tell the audience how people can get CuGrip. Like how, if somebody wanted CuGrip after watching this, what would they do?
So we've got what I think is a pretty good website. But we have to separate CuGrip into 2 different worlds. There's a commercial world, and then there's a retail world. The commercial world, we suggest that they come through our website at just info@cugrip.com. We suggest that, or get a hold of me on LinkedIn, or get a hold of Victor on LinkedIn, because we have such a massive network of contracted relationships now. We have distributors, we have stocking distributors, we have resellers, and we have sales reps. All of these are contracted to us now, which means that there's very few places in the world now that we couldn't put somebody onto.
Got it.
And have them get more information about CuGrip. And we try to keep our website both factual information. We're adding a library, because I think it's incumbent upon anybody that is working at the safety level of people, what we call COVID heroes. Now, a COVID hero to me is somebody that faces COVID every day they go to work. See, I don't. I sit here. So I got a lake behind me. I'm not facing it. But I was at Tim Hortons today and I saw a bunch of people that I call COVID heroes because they're not highly paid and they got to face this every single day.
And they have no clue whether the people coming in.
Well, that's right. So I've got a great amount of empathy towards that whole end of it. So I think it's incumbent that whatever information we put out has a great deal of efficacy, because there's a lot of, it's like anything else. People are going to take advantage of COVID on the other side, on the defrauding of the false information, dangerous goods, really, really poorly done chemicals and masks. So there's a whole side of COVID where people are trying to take advantage of it. And then there's another side of COVID where it's like legitimate stuff that has been really thought through, and I want to partner with that side. I want to partner with anybody that's on the legitimate side of COVID.
Has anyone? I just thought of this. Has anyone put it on their steering wheel? That's what I'm thinking about. Because
I'll give you a little backdrop. The Dr. Henry, who's British Columbia's chief medical officer, Bonnie Henry is her name. And she's gotten a lot of respect around the world, not just Canada, because she's been very pragmatic. And one of the things that she brought up is that there are myths involved with COVID. And one of the myths is if it's not highly touched, if it's just yours, then chances of there being a problem are a lot less. And with a company like CuGrip, we want to be really honest with the public where we think it belongs. And sometimes people suggest areas where, it doesn't fit the use case. In other words, the copper isn't malleable enough to work. And an example of that is elevator buttons. We haven't developed the copper correctly on that yet. So that's fine. But that's a good example of saying, no, that's not a good market for us. And there are many companies like us that they stick to our knitting. And we make darn sure that if whatever we're doing, it has the effect that we want to get out of it on the other side.
Parts to me, you have to touch that.
Millions of those. Like one of the things they've learned in COVID, and this is not a politically easy thing for me to say, but deep cleaning and cleaning is not really done very well. And it's because of a time factor, a labor problem, and the chemicals you're using, not using them correctly. There's a whole lot of problems with manual cleaning. And a part of that means that you better have strategies that are working around that. And that's where, when I go to
Costco, they have 2 or 3 staff members out there.
I know.
Sanitizing and as it comes back in.
I know. And if you watch them, they're wiping or they'll spray something and then, now it's better. And that's just not deep cleaning. If somebody's going to transfer from their hands or from sneezing or from airborne onto something, you better have something pretty serious there. And it's not that they're doing a super poor job on purpose. It's just that if you are cleaning millions of carts every day, you can't do it completely.
Right.
Whereas, so if you think right now, if you had 2 places to put your hands, and that's the 2 places that you're only going to touch, now the cleaners can go to those 2 spots.
Right. And you leapfrog the whole thing because it's self-sanitizing all the time. You can
but even then, if they wanted to clean, they know exactly where to clean. If you watch the way people use the hand baskets or use the push carts, their hands are all over the place. But if the behavior was touch the copper, now you can shorten up the span of cleaning if that's what you wanted to do. Take a microcloth and just wipe it down. Doesn't require chemicals because, like you say, it's self-sanitizing. But think about the behavior change. Yeah. So now you're not putting your hands everywhere.
Larry, I think you should actually be more enthused about this project.
I'm learning, this is
to get you to talk about it too. It's like crazy. I don't know.
We've really aligned ourselves with a lot of the science side. So we have a project that unfortunately I can't talk to you much about because it's a very tight non-disclosure agreement, but we're doing a huge third-party study right now and peer-reviewed study, and it's being done with infectious diseases. It's being done with the help of a transit company, and there's a bunch of people involved, and our participation is just supplying the CuGrips, and then they test them day in, day out, different times during the day. It's a really cool study. Now, if you would have told me even 6 months ago that I would be involved in that and be part owner of something like that, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how fast things happen?
Yes.
Crisis is the mother of innovation and invention.
Yes. And it's happening. Crisis is, that's what's happening. And again, I got to look back at Victor because you're interviewing me today, but Victor's the mechanical engineer that had to go through 41 different adhesives on the back of copper to come up with the one that worked. And using, so there's really, I push a lot of the credit to him because he had to think about it. All I had to do is figure out who's best to bring on the team and how do we push this to the world.
Well, I'll tell you what, I offer, and this is definitely one I want to do. Let's do a follow-up in a couple months.
Sure.
Whatever. Yeah. And let's do 3 of us. I've done 4 of us on here, and
sure.
And bring Victor on. And I think my audience and the viewers would love to hear, and I'd love to ask him some questions about
he is. Victor's so humble.
To being able to call you and say, okay, I figured some stuff out. I need help. And the fact that he called you and asked for help is also something.
When you meet this young man, you're meeting somebody that has an it factor. He is so humble, and yet at the same time funny and can work. But he knows what he knows. He knows what he doesn't know, and he knows how to continually learn. And I've learned so much from him already myself. Hell, he keeps you young.
Yeah. I'm reading a book, Mentors to Millions, right now, and
okay, yeah,
it's a story about the need for and the impact of being really smart, having what you have, but then asking for help.
Yes,
and being able to get that other dimension. Like we're not all figured out yet. We all need that sort of, and then that whole culture of it really working and fitting and is really, really important. Well, listen, this has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you had thought you wanted to say that you didn't have a chance to?
Other than thank you, I just really, really enjoy spending some time with you, David. We seem to hit it off real good.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that Joel and Steve are working with you.
Yeah, very much.
Good friends of mine. I'm definitely, you got my head spinning on this whole thing with portable sanitation. I don't know if there's an application, but I would think that maybe on all of the units that they have out in the field, there could be a need to put a CuGrip on the door handle.
Yeah, could be. Yep.
Because then it solves and answers all the questions. It is clean, well, maybe it's not clean, but it is self-sanitizing continually.
Always. Yep.
And I think also the message that sends to their customers that they're doing something extra and proactive.
I would love to leave on this particular statement is one of our clients emphatically said, I want my customers to see that I care. So adding that layer of CuGrip, I felt really proud about that. He said, because I could be spending $1 million right now and they won't even see what I'm doing.
Right.
He says, but when I add this and I tell them now that I'm spending $1 million, they can appreciate that I'm doing this and that. I love that. I think that's a great message.
And it really adds a level of meaning. And I'm sure you feel the satisfaction as much as we're isolated, as much as I'm excited to do a Zoom call these days. I'd rather do a Zoom call than a phone call just because I don't see anyone unless I'm on
This is the only way to rock, David. This is the only way to rock.
Yeah. I don't think they're ever going to go away. I think we're going to do Zoom the rest of our lives.
Yeah, well, we are now. I mean, it's become a part of our everyday. I'm on these things probably 10 times a day, at least.
Wow.
And I enjoy it. I mean, to me, it doesn't feel any different than you sitting across the table here from me right now. Because I've been doing it for so long. I just feel like I'm talking to you.
Is come up and rent a boat in America. I'll float it up. You get out on your boat, and
that's right.
We'll meet on the lake, and
right over there.
Yeah, right there on the lake.
That's right.
That would be fun.
Yes.
Larry, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing with my audience about CuGrip. It's www.cugrip.com, and if you can't find Larry or reach him, just let me know. I have his cell phone number.
Yes.
I am connected to him on LinkedIn. I'm guilty of what you did to me on LinkedIn. You reached out to me and I replied back, but I use LinkedIn every day.
Yeah, me too. Big LinkedIn user.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And well, listen, thank you for being on the show. Say hello to your wife.
My pleasure. I will.
I don't know when we'll talk next, but I'll be back in touch for the follow-up.
Yeah, I love that. I think Victor would love that too.
Very good. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.